Smash that like button, share this out with your friends. Picture this, a small Midwestern town called Normal, Illinois. That's what it's called. But that name, there's nothing really ordinary about this town. There's nothing really wholesome or steady about this town. The name itself promises something steady, wholesome, and ordinary, but Normal, Illinois is not an ordinary place. You'd imagine that it's the kind of place that you can watch some Friday night football, go to some church potlucks, or watch the kids riding on their bicycles as the street lights flicker. But Normal, Illinois is not a normal town, and there's nothing normal about what's going on at Unit 5. We're going to chat about it because 25 WEEK, they did a piece on this. It's so funny to watch the comments. You've got your county board members chiming in and saying, how dare they run this piece on Alex Williams, which was a very impartial, non-biased piece. I mean, they just reported the facts. And, they're attacking the messenger. They're saying that, the sources that they used weren't good. Becky Swan, the resident in Normal, she's not a good resident, or she's not a part of the district, or they attack the petition and the people who signed the petition to oust Alex Williams from his position as the president of the school board. They're saying, there's all these people from all these faraway counties signing this petition. No, they don't address what Alex Williams said or did. He didn't address it either in this piece, which is probably more so what the story is that Alex Williams has yet to address what's been going on at Unit 5, or what's been going on, and to address the controversy here. Unit 5 also did not address it. So we're going to chat about it. I've got the tape. I'll roll the tape. I think this is pretty funny. But we've got this guy, Alex Williams. He is the president of the Unit 5 school board, sits in silence, by the way, as the community asks him, hey, why'd you do this? They've petitioned. There's over 500 signatures in this petition. And, he chose to open his heart on Facebook, which is fine. You can say whatever you want, but that's not going to exempt you from consequences. Okay. So he poured his heart out on Facebook, but it wasn't about what came out wasn't love. It wasn't humility. It wasn't leadership. It wasn't something you'd see from somebody who is supposed to be an elected official representing the school, the parents, the school children of Unit 5. What came out when he decided to open his heart on Facebook was mockery. He mocked people who watch Fox News, which is a very mainstream, millions of people tune in every single night. Okay. He mocked Christianity. He mocked Trump supporters. And I think worst of all, he mocked, and he made a comment about the Charlie Kirk assassination, who was a conservative leader and very well liked by probably many of his students that he's supposed to be thinking of when serving in this role as school board president. All right, let's talk about it. Let's play this clip. This is from 25 News. They did a bit on it, I think, last night. So take a listen. Here we go.
5 families want the school board president out after social media posts from earlier in the month drew a lot of interest. Alex Williams finds himself at the center of controversy, and so far, he's staying silent. Good Monday evening. I'm Tyler Lopez.
And I'm Janice Rebholz. A petition drives to remove him, and it has started based on comments he made shortly after Charlie Kirk was assassinated September 10th. Gianna Zhao sat down with a community member about how they feel in his post. It's tonight's top story.
Outraged. Absolutely outraged.
This is how Normal resident Becky Swan felt after she opened Facebook and saw a post from Unit 5 board president Alex Williams. The post included his opinions of those who associate with Fox News. His term was low information voters, along with his views regarding institutional racism and Christianity. The post ended with a picture of President Donald Trump and this headline, "What Mega Cult Believes." It quickly led to a debate on social media.
This is an elected official. This is someone who has considerable power and influence over the decisions that are made for 13,000 students.
She and other community members also found comments from Mr. Williams on a WGLT Facebook post, again, regarding Charlie Kirk. He used similar language regarding his beliefs. Becky Swan has her own beliefs.
I am not in an occult, and no one else that I know is in a cult. They're independent thinkers, and Trump supporters, Charlie Kirk supporters are not just Christians.
This sparked a petition to prompt the resignation of Board President Williams. Swan was one out of the 525 signatures.
Disgusting rhetoric, and it's not acceptable, and it shouldn't be tolerated. And the whole petition is basically saying, resign, step down. You're in no position to lead. The children are suffering because of the fact that adults can't settle their differences.
25 News reached out to Unit 5 School District. A spokesperson declined to comment, but the Illinois Association of School Boards outlines that school board members are elected and legally appointed officials, not subject to the removal or recall by the public. And Mr. Williams was asked for his comments, either on camera or by way of a statement, which he indicated he would have by Monday. But in the end, he refused both. In McLean County, Gianna Zhao, 25 News.
Okay, so I wanted to play that for you. One particular comment that he had made on social media that was kind of gross. Somebody said, anyone who feels a deep connection to somebody like Charlie Kirk is a walking red flag. And then Alex Williams, he responds here and he says, correction, they are deplorable and they belong to a cult. So if you felt like you had a connection to Charlie Kirk, or if you were upset by his death in any kind of way. Hold on, folks. All right. I had to fix all that. Okay. So if you felt like you had a connection or you were saddened by the death of Charlie Kirk, Alex Williams says you're deplorable. Alex Williams says that you are part of a cult. And this is a guy who is serving as a school board president. Let me share with you the post in question because they didn't really read it word for word. I'll read it word for word here on the Conservative Cat Show. Be sure to subscribe. This is the post word for word. And the most damning thing here is, as you say, and in the chat, you guys are always welcome to chat, throw in chat. Most importantly, we are Christians. We are Christians first before we believe Trump supporters. We are Trump supporters or Fox News watchers. So this is what's fascinating about the post. He says, low information voters, for example, those who watch Fox News, Christians who claim to love God, a God they've never seen, yet hate their neighbors whom they see daily. So this is a really shocking statement coming from somebody. I mean, can you imagine how many Unit 5 parents and students are Christians? And then he came out and said that about the Christian community. Okay, it's deeply offensive because Christians, they love a God who they can't see. That as a whole, we walk by faith, not by sight. This is scripture that we hold as true and as doctrine, and this is like the whole precipice, the whole premise of our faith here, of our religion. Yes, we don't see him. That's the whole point. And then he goes on to say they hate their neighbors whom they see daily. So he's saying that Christians are hateful people, which is just outrageous and not true. So that's Alex Williams. Now our story here, the villain, he doesn't always wear a cape or have this mustache, the big mustache. Sometimes the villain in your life is someone who wears a suit, someone who takes an oath of office and swears to serve the children and members of the school community. And then he turns around, breaks that oath, and doesn't serve the students or the parents and sneers at them online and mocks them. Williams, he, of course, in all of smugness. I mean, it was just a very smug post, in my opinion. This is a guy who, I'm sure is shocked that people are calling him out for this, and probably did not imagine the pushback would be like this. But he called conservatives low information voters, people who watch Fox News low information voters. He also tossed around words like institutional racism. They were like buzzwords almost. It kind of reminded me when I was a freshman in college. I would always try to impress my sociology professor by throwing out buzzwords like institutional racism, gender equality, or gender equity. It just kind of reminded me of a freshman in college trying to impress their sociology professor. And then he ended, of course, with that picture of Donald Trump, and he said, "What MAGA cult believes? I don't know." So imagine that, a guy who is trusted to guide really the education of 13,000 children. He thought it was wise to call thousands of parents as cult members. I'm sure there's children who felt affected by the assassination or felt a connection of some sort to Charlie Kirk. That doesn't mean that they're a part of a cult. Okay. So you guys heard Becky Swan there. She's a normal activist, or a normal resident, conservative activist. And in this story, she talks about, her reaction. And I couldn't have summed it up better myself. Outraged, just outraged. And she doesn't stop there. She talks about the petition. They talked about the petition. And I want to pause the story and I want to talk about what scripture says, because as Christians, when we're attacked like this, I mean, we shouldn't be shocked. Jesus said, if they mocked me, they're going to mock you. If they're persecuted me, they're going to persecute you. So what does scripture say in Proverbs 31:8? Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves. I know there's kids in Unit 5 who felt devastated by the news of Charlie Kirk being assassinated and gunned down on a college campus. I know that there's children who are upset by that. I know that there's parents who were upset by that and maybe felt a connection to Charlie Kirk, maybe listened to his show. I met a lot of Unit 5 students at the April 5th rally where Charlie Kirk was at ISU. I met a lot of students, high school students, who came out to listen to Charlie Kirk. And what Becky is doing here, she's speaking up for the 13,000 kids whose parents don't want their faith and values mocked in the public square. These kids don't want their values mocked or their faith mocked. To be told that Christians are hateful towards their neighbors. Love thy neighbor. That is like a tenet of our faith. And Williams, he sat here and said, they can't see their God, or Christians who claim to love a God they've never seen will claim to love a God they've never seen yet hate their neighbors whom they see daily. I mean, that's bizarre. And like every good story, there is, and every villain, has a fortress, right? Very good story. The resistance doesn't begin with lawyers or lobbyists or anybody like that. A good story is ordinary people who said, hey, I want to speak up for the voiceless. I want to speak up for these 13,000 kids who might not agree with what Alex Williams had said. So the fortress that Williams is hiding behind is this Illinois bureaucracy. In the story, you didn't pick up on it. This is where the story really is. The Illinois Association of School Board is probably rushing in here. And there is another case in Algonquin. This is up north, where a school board president there has come under fire for similar comments on social media surrounding the Charlie Kirk assassination. But the Illinois Association of School Boards came out and they kind of rushed out, and they're essentially wagging their finger. They're saying, sorry, folks, you can't remove an elected board president with a petition. He's untouchable. He's not untouchable because you can easily just run somebody against him the next go around. And there is a process to remove him. The regional superintendent can remove him if the rest of the board decides that he failed to meet his duties. The State Board of Education, only in extreme circumstances. I don't know if this would be considered an extreme circumstance. I'm willing to bet not. The State Board of Education can actually remove him as well. So, in other words, the system protects its own. It's kind of, I was thinking about this earlier today. I was like, it's easier to recall, you hear those recalls on salad dressings or chicken nuggets at Walmart. Okay, it's easier to recall those things and get those off of the shelf than it is to recall a school board president in Illinois. I'm willing to bet, but this petition thing was definitely a great idea. This is a way to show people that, hey, a tangible way to show people, hey, people are upset about this. So bureaucrats are going to shrug when the people are upset. But the story doesn't end there, because God's people, they always get the victory. You might not see it yet. Sometimes victories come when the truth is just drug out into the light. The fact that you've got a mainstream local media outlet picking this up, that in and of itself is a win, because the truth is being drug out into the light. Now, it might not be the victory you want, where he actually gets removed, but this is truth coming to light and being drug out there. So let's zoom out. This is a story about one man in McLean County, but this is happening across school boards in America. As I told you, in Algonquin, or I think her name is Zettler. I'll have to double check on her name, but she's a school board president as well, and made some pretty horrific comments about the Charlie Kirk assassination. So we've seen it in California. We've seen it in all places where parents are standing up. They're sick and tired of being mocked. Actually, I have this beautiful clip of this woman. I'm going to have to pull this up because this was really good. This is a woman who spoke up about the transgender issue. So she doesn't want kids to be changing in front of one another. And this is a 50-year-old mother in California. She protested her school district, their locker room policy. Okay. And during the board meeting, she stripped down into a bathing suit and told officials, if this makes you uncomfortable, you've proven my point about what the kids are exposed to. So I'm actually going to share this with you. This is on the fly. I actually saw this last night, and Sean Hannity had put it up on his Instagram, and I was like, gosh, this is the most impressive thing that I've ever seen a parent do at a school board meeting. It's hilarious, and it really gets the point across. Here we go. Let's take a listen.
Transgender identity, that they can pick which bathroom they want. So we have, right now at this school district, we have children self-identifying into different bathrooms. This is allowed.
No. We're going to recess.
I'm going to finish my comments, or you are violating my First Amendment right. I am putting on my PE uniform. You are disrupting.
Well-known parents' rights activist in Davis with children in the school district, and she tells me she felt the only way to get the board's attention was to turn to drastic measures by taking off her shirt and then her pants to get her point across.
Yesterday, as I was preparing my comments, I thought, you know what? I'm going to try something different. I just thought I would show the school board, what does it feel like to change into your PE clothing? And I had a bathing suit on, so everything was covered as an outfit. How can they expect the girls to feel comfortable doing that? So I just thought I made a really good point.
Do you consider what you did last night disruptive?
I don't think it was disruptive. What was disruptive was them interrupting my 3 minutes of free speech. That didn't stop the orderly flow of the meeting. I didn't prevent the next person from giving their 3 minutes of comment.
And
depending on a child's transgender identity, that they can pick which bathroom they want. So we have, right now at this school district, we have children self-identifying.
Okay, so I wanted to play a little bit of that. I brought that up this morning kind of on the fly. I saw that last night, and I thought it was absolutely hilarious, and it was genius. This 50-year-old mother, she says, if I'm making you uncomfortable by changing in front of you, and, there's male school board members, if I'm making you uncomfortable, that's exactly what you're doing to the children. Okay, so we've seen parents stand up. They're mocked. They're labeled. They're silenced. Christians raise concerns. They're told to sit down and shut up. Conservatives question authority. They're told that they're cult members for questioning authority. And I mean, do you see a pattern here? The spirit of mockery is the same. They not just, and it's not just Alex Williams who's typing on Facebook, okay? This is a worldview, and a people with a worldview that despise faith and despise liberty, and they mock it. They mock people of faith, and they mock people who choose liberty. And here's the truth. The left calls conservatives cult, but they're the biggest cult in America. Let's be real. They're cult of government control, and they're, pronouns in your bio. That's kind of how you get into the cult. If you put pronouns in your email signature, their commandments is pay taxes, silence your faith, obey the experts, and their high priests are these bureaucrats, the Illinois School Board of Association. Who's going to protect this guy? Their high priests are their bureaucrats who mock the people, the very people they're supposed to be serving. So this story reminds us, just be a Becky Swan. Ordinary parents can stand up. Ordinary people can stand up. Let's remember something deeper. Christianity has always been mocked, from the Romans to the French Revolution to modern Facebook posts. The world will always sneer at Christ and at his people, because guess what? The word is true, and Jesus said that would happen. But the sneering doesn't stop the truth. In fact, it often fuels it. So Luke 6:22 says this. Jesus said, "Blessed are you when people hate you, when they exclude you and insult you and reject your name as evil because of the Son of Man." Alex Williams' words, they're not just insults against conservatives. They were insults against the God who calls us to truth and liberty. And that's why this isn't just a political scandal, him putting some insulting things on Facebook. That's not just what this story is about. It's a spiritual battle. So what's the lesson? Don't be silent. The system will never save you. The Illinois School Board Association or whatever, the bureaucrats, the regional superintendent, they're not going to save you. The bureaucrats won't protect you. They're not going to protect the kids. They're not going to speak out against people like Alex Williams, because he is a part of their club. Okay, so what you can do is build alternatives. Homeschooling, co-ops, Christian schools. You can show up to meetings. I think they're going to have a meeting in October. I think it's like October 14th, mid-October sometime. And you can make some noise with a petition. So much noise to where, WEEK picks it up, which I was shocked about. You're starting to see like a lot of the county board members even come out and say, "Oh, Alex is the best leader in the community," yada, yada, yada. And they're like, how dare WEEK run the story? They were very impartial. They reached out for comment. They emphasized that a lot in the piece. They said, hey, we reached out for comment. He did not provide one. We reached out to Unit 5. They did not provide one. So what more can you do? They're going after the coverage, the left, okay? And that's what they do. They'll also go after, Becky Swan because she was a source. I was definitely shocked when I saw that on WEEK. Yeah, the truth is coming to light. This was a mainstream outlet picking up this story, which was shocking. So as our story closes, and I'm going to bring it to a close, Alex Williams sits in silence. He still hasn't addressed it, a statement apologizing. I think that's really would go a long way for Alex. Really, I think that being that you offended Christians, they're very forgiving people. They're kind of known for that. I think that if you were to just make a public statement that said, hey, I'm sorry, I should have considered all of the constituency and all of the people I represent in Unit 5 before making a post, and acted more that of a leader, and I should have acted more like a leader and should have thought a few minutes before posting. and say, hey, kids, to my students or to the students, I highly recommend you think twice before you say something, especially if you hold a leadership position, because you are not exempt from consequences, and I'm feeling the consequences, something to that effect. I think that would go a long way. So the board can hide behind, oh, you can't get rid of him because he's an elected official. But we're awake. The truth is out there. And that's really all the victory that we wanted, honestly. And what we'll have to do is just run somebody against him. So McLean County, listen up. Force him out. Strip him of this title. Okay. Now, I do want to talk about this government shutdown. Okay, so the circus has rolled back into town, folks, and this happens all of the freaking time. And I really am I've tuned it out at this point because they always threaten shutdowns. It never really happens, and it's not even going to be the worst thing in the world. Honestly, less government. A government shutdown, I don't think would be the worst thing in the world. What, the bureaucrats don't get paid? Oh no. All the people in these agencies that aren't even worth really any. I mean, I talked about it a little bit yesterday. The CDC and the IDPH are going after it, and they came out with different recommendations for the COVID-19 vaccine. The CDC is saying anybody over the age of 65, we recommend the COVID vaccine. And then if you're younger than that, you should probably consult with your doctor about taking the vaccine. That's what the CDC says. And then the IDPH says, well, everybody should take it. These are their recommendations, and they're, conflicting or mixed messages. And the doctors at this point are probably saying to themselves, I mean, I'm not really going to go with either of these recommendations. I'm just going to listen to the American Pediatric Association. I'm going to listen to, my colleagues' guidelines and the medical professionals. So there is a lot of just bloat in government. There are a lot of agencies you just don't need. So what? The worst thing that happens is the bureaucrats don't get paid for a few days. Whoop-de-doo. I really don't think that the government shutdown would be all that devastating. Honestly, it's probably something that we need. So the Republicans and the Democrats, they're huddled together in Washington, and they're trying to keep the lights on. Okay, they're trying to prevent a shutdown. And surprise, surprise, it kind of all fell apart. And Vice President J.D. Vance and House Majority Leader Mike Johnson, they didn't mince words in this press conference. They actually took the microphones and called out the Democrats for their little stunt, okay? And the best way I could describe this stunt is a hypocritical hostage takeover. Okay, they're holding the American people hostage, and they're saying, hey, if we don't, they've got a gun to your head. They're saying, if we don't get what we want, we're going to shut down the government. And this is the Democrat playbook. They point the finger at the Republicans, and they hope that the American people won't notice that they're actually the ones driving the country toward a cliff. So I want to get to this press conference here. This is J.D. Vance. He led things off at the press conference, and he said that a shutdown appears imminent. Okay. Like I said, am I too worried about a shutdown? Not really. I know that's really controversial. Maybe I'm being very simple with it, but I don't know. What has the government ever really done for me? And if they were to shut down for a few days, I don't think it would be that devastating. Let's take a listen to J.D. Vance at the press conference. Here we go.
Disagreements about tax policy, but you don't shut the government down. We have disagreements about healthcare policy, but you don't shut the government down. You don't use your policy disagreements as leverage to not pay our troops, to not have essential services of government actually function. You don't say the fact that you disagree about a particular tax provision is an excuse for shutting down the people's government and all the essential services that come along with it. If you look at what Chuck Schumer has said in the past consistently, it's whatever our disagreements are, let's negotiate with them. Let's talk about them. Let's figure out a bipartisan solution, but you don't shut the government down. In other words, you don't put a gun to the American people's head and say, unless you do exactly what Senate and House Democrats want you to do, we're going to shut down your government. That's exactly what they're proposing out there. Now we have to remember they're very frustrated. They say that they're very frustrated about the fact that this negotiation has not taken place until today. But if you look at the original thing they did with this negotiation, it was a $1.5 trillion spending package, basically saying to the American people, we want to give massive amounts of money, hundreds of billions of dollars to illegal aliens for their health care, while Americans are struggling to pay their health care bills. That was their initial foray into this negotiation. We thought it was absurd. We told them it was absurd, and now they come in here saying that if you don't give us everything that we want, we're going to shut down the government. We think that's preposterous. We think it's totally unacceptable, and we think the American people are going to suffer because these guys won't do the right thing. Now, I want to make one final point here. You will hear a lot from Senate Democrats, from House Democrats about the fact that American healthcare policy is broken. Well, we know that American healthcare policy is broken. We've been trying to fix it for the 8 months that we've been in office, but every single thing that they accuse about being broken about American healthcare is policy the Democrats have supported for the past decade. So if they want to talk about how to fix American healthcare policy, let's do it. The Speaker would love to do it. The Senate Majority Leader would love to do it. Let's work on it together, but let's do it in the context of an open government that's providing essential services to the American people. That's all that we're proposing to do, and the fact that they refuse to do that shows how unreasonable their position is. I think we're headed to a shutdown because the Democrats won't do the right thing. I hope they change their mind, but we're going to.
Okay, so let me be clear. Every few years this happens, and I get behind this microphone every year or every few years and talk about the government shutdown, and the government shutdown is imminent, and the American people are panicking, and they, ask the questions of, oh, will my mail stop, or will my parks close up? And let's get one thing straight, okay? Yes, a shutdown would disrupt some services, but for the most part, it's all political theater, okay? Millions of government workers would be furloughed, yes, laid off temporarily, and certain federal services would slow down. But guess what? I bet if the government actually shut down, they cry wolf all the time. The government's going to shut down. The government's going to shut down. If it actually shut down, life would go on. The military would definitely still operate. Social Security checks would still come in. Everything would still kind of function somewhat. Law enforcement doesn't vanish in the case of government shutdown. But why does Washington freak out then, Kat? Why are the headlines urging me to freak out? Because guess what? The bureaucrats, the politicians, they love their power trips, and a shutdown threatens their endless budgets, their pet programs, their ability to control you with money and regulation. Okay, so their little pet projects are threatened, and the money going to these organizations that in turn funnel campaign dollars into their coffers, like that's all threatened. Okay, their power and their ability to control you with money and regulation is stripped from them, and they don't like that. So for them, yeah, shutdown is an existential crisis. For us, it's mostly an inconvenience, if that. I mean, really, think about it. On a day-to-day basis, how much do you really interact with government services? Like, you're just an average, normal American citizen. You go to work, you come home. And honestly, if the government were to shut down, it would probably be a good thing for, a little while, because it would probably teach us that, hey, government really isn't essential. The essential parts of life are people, communities, and families. So here's the conservative truth. Shutdowns expose how bloated and how inefficient and how unnecessary really parts of the federal government have become. And the government doesn't need your tax dollars to operate like a corporation. It needs them to fund essential services. And even then, we question what's really essential. Okay, so right now, the way they're going about spending your tax dollars, they're running it like it's a corporation, and they're trying to get rich, okay, off your tax dollars. Everybody's trying to make a profit off of you. And that is not what government's supposed to be. They're supposed to fund essential services. And even then, we should always question what they say is essential. So honestly, I think a shutdown would be a rare opportunity for accountability. the spending freezes up, right? I think it's easier to pick out where the waste is. The grants to programs no one really understands or cares about, duplicative agencies, subsidies that go to politically favored groups instead of the people who earned it and had that money taken away from them. That money should stay in their pockets. So Proverbs 21:20 says this, the wise store up food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down. The government often acts like fools, spending money they don't have, leaving us to pick up the pieces. So yes, a government shutdown could be an inconvenience, but it's not the end of the world. If anything, it might actually be a tiny corrective check on Washington's appetite for power. Instead of panicking, use it as a reminder that, hey, your faith, your family, your freedom, personal relationships, your communities, this is all more important than politicians fighting over your dollars and where those dollars are going to go, so that way they stay in power. So, I don't know, folks. That's my whole take on it. But JD Vance has a point here. Shutdowns are super mind-numbing. And it's a political exercise. Like I said, it's largely political theater. And I just want to point this out, and JD Vance pointed it out. It's the Democrats. You know, they've repeatedly gotten away with taking both sides of this issue depending on who is in power. So I don't know how the last time we talked about a government shutdown, the Republicans were in the minority, and they said it was the Republicans' fault that we were headed towards a government shutdown. But now they're in the minority and they're not in the majority. The Democrats and the Republicans are in the majority, and somehow it's also their fault that we're headed towards a government shutdown. So in fact, the general rule seems to be no matter what happens, the shutdown is always the fault of the Republicans. It seems like that's the thing now. It's really like they're putting their clown nose on and their clown nose off. It's a clown nose on and off routine where the GOP is constantly blamed for these shutdowns, whether they're in the minority party or the majority. So if Republicans block a continuing resolution, they're responsible. If they pass a continuing resolution and then the Democrats block it, Republicans are responsible, despite that being a complete reversal of the roles. You see what I'm saying here? Like, it can't always be the Republicans' fault for the government shutdowns, right? And it's kind of insulting to your intelligence, and it's gaslighting. And, you know, it's disappointing that the mainstream press for decades have propagated this, that it's always the GOP's fault when there's government shutdowns. So Johnson lit into Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, exposing wasteful giveaways Democrats are demanding to keep the government open. So let's take a listen to Johnson here and what he had to say about the shutdowns. And then I'm going to play President Donald Trump. He came up with like this AI. It was really funny. Video of Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer. So here we go.
Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries have come out here, stomped the feet, saying that they can't go along with this. They're trying to bring in extraneous issues. They issued a counter proposal. You should go take a look at what they requested. $1.5 trillion in new spending that is unrelated to the ongoing appropriations process. They wanted to, as you said, restore taxpayer-funded benefits. Okay, hardworking taxpayers in America. They want to take your funds and give that for benefits to illegal aliens. They want to restore that because we got rid of it. They want to prop up left-leaning media outlets. $500 million they threw in on top of that. $1.5 trillion on a 7-week stopgap funding measure. We're not going to do that. They know we can't do that. And we never have in the past. During the Biden administration, there were 13 threatened shutdowns. The Republicans in the minority did the right thing. We kept the government open. We're simply asking for the Democrats to do the same. Again, I want to thank President Trump for the strong, solid leadership. He listened to the arguments, and they just wouldn't acknowledge the simple facts. I want to thank Vice President here for showing his leadership as well. If the Democrats make the decision to shut the government down, the consequences are on them. And I think it's absolutely tragic. We've never said that was a good idea. We never believed it is. And I want you to remember, when we voted in the House, we passed it out of the House. The House has done its job. We did that almost 2 weeks ago. Every Democrat in the House except one voted to shut the government down. That is the record. And don't forget it.
Okay. So that was Speaker Johnson. He was talking about, how they want to give money to illegal aliens. That's really what's going on here. They want to take hardworking American tax dollars and they want to take your funds and give them to illegal aliens. They want to prop up left-leaning media outlets to the tune, I think, of like $500 million. And on top of that, they want $1.5 trillion on a 7-week stopgap funding measure. So, i.e., that is just funding towards all of their politically connected groups and pet programs and projects. So, and he reminded that, hey, during the Biden administration, there were 13 threatened shutdowns. They threatened the shutdowns all the time, by the way. The Republicans in the minority did the right thing. They passed a continuing resolution, and Johnson's just calling on the Democrats to do the same and to do the right thing and not shut down the government. And like I said, I'm not really going to be hurt if the government shuts down. I don't think you would be either. Honestly, think about it. So let's play this. This is funny. This is Donald Trump trolling Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries for wanting to give illegals health care. And he posted this video actually on Truth Social. Hilarious. It's like AI. Here we go.
There's no way to sugarcoat it. Nobody likes Democrats anymore. We have no voters left because of all of our woke trans bullshit. Not even black people want to vote for us anymore. Even Latinos hate us. So we need new voters. And if we give all these illegal aliens free health care, we might be able to get them on our side so they can vote for us. They can't even speak English. So they won't realize we're just a bunch of woke pieces of shit, at least for a while, until they learn English and they realize they hate us too. There's no way to sugarcoat it. Nobody.
That is just genius. Donald Trump trolling. So yeah, Republicans, they need to keep hammering away on this. During prior shutdown fights, we've been repeatedly told that it's the minority party who tends to be the reason for the government shutdown if they refuse to pass a clean continuing resolution, that they're usually responsible for the shutdown. That's what the standard used to be, but as always, Democrats moved the goalpost, and then suddenly that changed. The standard changes, and the Democrats, when they use their minority rule and the minority party leverage to shut down the government or to shut down the government in order to garner some of their priorities, i.e. healthcare for illegal immigrants, i.e. $500 million for left-leaning media outlets. If they don't get what they want, then they're going to kind of shut down the government. They're going to leverage their minority party leverage, or they're going to use their minority party status to shut down the government. Now, when Republicans did this, that it was Republicans' fault. You get what I'm saying? Republicans are in the majority this time. Last time it was them because they were. It's always the Republicans' fault, I guess, the government shutdowns. And how is this really fair to the American voters? Okay, if they choose to put the Republicans in power, that's what they did. Then why are you fighting against what the Republicans want in this continuing resolution? Because that's what the American people voted for. So why are you fighting to put $500 million, or give $500 million to the left-wing media outlets? Why are you fighting for illegal healthcare, illegal immigrants getting healthcare? Obviously, that's not what the American people want. They wouldn't have voted the Republicans in the majority had they wanted that. So, with that said, even if the polls wind up showing the GOP is to blame, and people are polled and said, do you think the GOP is to blame for the government shutdown? And even if you get misleading coverage from the mainstream media and they say, oh, well, it's the GOP who's shutting down the government, or it's the Republicans who are shutting down the government. That really shouldn't affect this process, and the Republicans cannot give in to the Democrats here in this situation, in this hope of avoiding bad press. And I think that the Republicans might bend the knee here, and I hope that they don't, where they try to avoid the bad press, avoid being called the reason why they're shutting down the government, because for some odd reason, the mainstream media has got people scared crapless if the government shuts down. I just told you the worst that would happen was maybe some services are slower. Okay, if you aren't a leech suckling at the teat of the government all freaking day, I think you're going to be just fine. The military's going to be fine. Social security checks are going to come in. None of that is going to be affected. Law enforcement will still continue. I mean, so the necessities will still be there. It's just like all of this fluff and pork that won't be there. And we might actually get to see some of the waste. This might be sort of a corrective measure, or corrective, like if the government were to shut down, this might be a way to kind of like point out all the unnecessary bloated parts, the inefficient parts of the federal government. And it might serve as sort of a reminder that we don't really need them for their services. You know, their whole goal is to take your tax dollars and operate like a corporation to make themselves rich. And that shouldn't be what government is like. Really, they should just fund essential services. And by essential, I mean essential. So Republicans, they're going to get bad press anyway. They shouldn't bend the knee to the Democrats or give in to the Democrats in this situation and give the illegals health care, give the $500 million to the left-leaning media outlets, the $1.5 trillion in their pet projects, to their politically connected programs and partnerships. You know, their priorities. They shouldn't bend the knee because guess what, Repubs? You're going to get bad press anyway. And setting this precedent that the Democrats get their way if they bitch and moan would actually be very devastating in the future. You know, the minority party should really be the ones, like the Republicans did just a couple of years ago when they were in the minority. They should be the ones to say, okay, we're in the minority. We're going to back down. You tried, you failed, give it up. Okay, that's where my take is on the whole thing. And to be honest with you, I wouldn't be all that. Honestly, I'm kind of rooting for a government shutdown, to be honest with you. It's not the end of the world. It would actually probably serve as a tiny corrective check on Washington's appetite for power. And instead of panicking about the government shutting down, the people should really be all about it, because it would actually expose, I think, their waste. And I think it would be a rare opportunity for some accountability. When the spending freezes up, it's easier to identify where their waste is. Hey, you know, life moves on. If we're all kind of chugging along, maybe we don't need this, and this. You know, it's easier to kind of see once that spending freezes up where the waste is. Grants to programs that nobody really understands or uses, you know, money to duplicative agencies, sub-agencies, and an agency, subsidies that go to politically connected groups and favored groups. You know, I would love to see, honestly, a government shutdown. And maybe I'm crazy for saying that, but yeah. Let's talk about today's show. I headlined it, RFK, Donald Trump Jr., they are taking on the abortion pill cartel. So this is a big story. Welcome to the Conservative Cat Show. This is the only place where we cut through the noise, we shine a light on the truth, and we do it all with a grin sharper than a cat's claw. Okay, so big news out of Washington. FDA, they once again are in the spotlight. FDA, they recently were in the spotlight because of the whole title thing. But they're in the spotlight again because they are reviewing the safety rules surrounding the abortion pill. Okay, there is a new sheriff in town. It is President Donald Trump and his Human Health Services Secretary, RFK Jr., and they are removing and probably removing, but they are currently in the reviewing process of Biden's reckless abortion pill rules. Okay, so the stakes couldn't be higher. We're talking about life, death, and whether this nation protects mothers and children, or whether they're going to decide to protect the profits of Planned Parenthood. So pro-life groups have been pushing the Trump administration to do this because under the Biden administration, the FDA really opened the floodgates here for abortion pills, like really bad, where, I mean, you get them in the mail, you can do telehealth prescriptions. There's no real oversight over abortion pills. A 12-year-old can order them off of a bootleg site, and she can get abortion pills without any kind of telehealth visit or even a prescription where a doctor sees her and talks to her. Okay, you've got these bots, these telehealth bots, and then, you know, the 12-year-old girl gets the abortion pill, and then she takes them, she hemorrhages out and dies. Okay, it's abortion on demand. It's like Amazon for abortion pills. It's very easy to get an abortion pill. Okay, as a 12-year-old girl. Okay, so the Trump administration has slammed the brakes on this. Okay, and RFK Jr., he didn't outright ban the abortion pill, which they have the majority. They could do that. They've got the agency. Okay, RFK Jr. heads up this agency. If he wanted to today, I bet he could say, yeah, just no more abortion in the mail, no more pills in the mail, and no more telehealth visits. He could say that today and not even worry about the safety rules, because just like Joe Biden didn't really provide any kind of science or justification to these laxed safety rules surrounding abortion pills. RFK Jr. could do the same thing, but he's not. He's taking the time. They're doing ongoing studies, and data is being gathered, and they are coming up with new safety rules to replace the Biden era free-for-all, okay, abortion pill rules. So let's be clear here. This isn't about paperwork. This is about whether the federal government will continue to treat unborn children like trash, okay, and whether it will enforce the law, really, that is already on the books, and I'm going to get to that here in a second, and put human life over corporate profits. Okay, so I know I'm talking about the safety rules. It's more than just paperwork, because this is a chance for the administration and RFK Jr., who, I mean, let's be honest, he's very moderate, especially on this issue. I'd say in some circles, people would say he's pro-choice. That's why I couldn't vote for him for president. People are like, oh, well, why aren't you voting for RFK Jr.? He's not a pro-life guy. Okay, but this is a chance to just treat the unborn children not like trash, okay, and women like trash, because these abortion pills are not safe, and I'll get to that here in just a second. And really, it's a chance for us to enforce law that's already on the books. This is like a law from the 1800s. It's called the Comstock Act, and we should be enforcing this law, but we don't. And adjusting the safety rules here could put us into compliance with that law that's already on the books. So I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself, but let's get to the Senate finance hearing. Senator Steve Daines of Montana, he's a Republican, he asked RFK Jr. about the mifepristone, because back in May, they announced that they were going to do reviews over the safety rules that Joe Biden had created. And I mean, it's already September, so where the hell is the adjustment? Okay. So that's kind of what, Steve Daines asked about the abortion pill, mifepristone, or misoprostol, sorry. These are two pills that they usually take together. And it is not approved by the FDA, was never approved by the FDA. This combination of drugs to delete a baby. Okay, it's very junky medication. Okay, so Kennedy's response here to Steve Daines in the Senate Finance Committee hearing, he said that the studies are ongoing So he's doing his due diligence here. He's not just doing what Joe Biden did and said, oh, this is the way I want my safety rules. Okay, no. He's actually doing the data, the studies, and he said that they're progressing and ongoing and that his office is going to keep Congress informed. And, that is a far cry from what Joe Biden did, which is just the rubber stamping, like, oh, Planned Parenthood wants us to do mail order abortions, mail telehealth visits and things like that for abortion pills. Okay. And they didn't even really have any oversight. Okay. And look at the data and look at how these abortion pills affect women. So this is actual data, actual science that's being obtained, actual accountability. And this is the very thing that the abortion industry fears most. And I'm glad RFK Jr. is taking his time with this, because we want that data. We want to destroy Planned Parenthood, right? We don't want them to continue to exist. And the way you do that is by beating them with facts. So pro-life Mark Lee Dixon, he says this: Biden's rules were never about protecting women. They were about protecting the industry's cash flow. And he reminded me, Mark Lee Dixon, about something very important. This is called the Comstock Act of 1873. This is an old law, okay, but it's not gone. I mean, this is on the books. Okay, it's a federal law, and it actually bans the mailing of abortion-inducing drugs. And if this law were to be enforced today, we could shut down mail order abortions overnight. And actually, the law goes even further. It says abortion paraphernalia. So that would shut down the abortion industry overnight. In that, you're not sending, the instruments of torture, the pliers that they reach in and they break the baby's limbs. Have you ever seen an abortion? I encourage you to go do it. It's not easy, but you can't ship that kind of stuff. That's what the Comstock Act of 1873 says. So you can't ship the drugs. You can't ship the paraphernalia through the mail. Okay, that's what that act says. And we already have that on the book, so I don't know why the hell we're not enforcing it, but we're not. Adjusting the safety rules would put us into compliance with this law. But here's the big difference. Under Joe Biden, the law was completely ignored. Now you've got Trump and RFK Jr. They're coming in, and it's going to be somewhat enforced through the safety rule adjustment, I'd imagine. We don't know what the safety rules are. But I would imagine RFK Jr. comes up with something that says, hey, abortion pills shouldn't be mailed. And, we know that this administration is serious about following the law. What a concept. Okay. So Planned Parenthood obviously isn't happy. They've blasted the FDA's review as politically motivated, and they say that it's harmful to trust in healthcare. But here's the irony. When Biden loosened the rules, it wasn't political. Okay. They're saying that it's politically motivated now. And they called it progress when Joe Biden loosened the rules, despite not having the data to suggest that this was the safest thing to do at the time. So when RFK Jr. and Donald Trump come back and then they say, well, let's review these rules and make sure we've got the data to prove that, hey, these rules are stringent enough or not too loose, suddenly it's political. Okay. It's really not political. They're just trying to have the data there that backs up the abortion in the mail thing. So Planned Parenthood, they only love science when it props up their business, and they love their preferred science. But when the science shows that 11% of women, okay, that's a good chunk, end up in the ERs, emergency rooms, after taking these pills, they're going to cry misinformation. Planned Parenthood, the abortion industry, they're going to say, oh, this is misinformation. No, folks, that is not information. That is true. 11% of women who take these are ending up in ERs. Okay, so, and think about that. A lot of women don't even report, okay, that they actually take these pills and aren't really honest about what happens to them afterwards because they're embarrassed. This is a very emotional thing. So the fact that that number is so high surrounding a very emotional circumstance. This is incredible. So let's zoom out a little bit. Scripture. What does Scripture say? Psalms 139. You knit me together in my mother's womb. Every child is a creation of God. No pill, no politician, no court ruling can erase that truth. Every child is a creation of God. They are a heritage from the Lord, and you are entrusted to take care of that child. The abortion lobby calls it freedom, but freedom without truth is just rebellion, and rebellion against God's design for life, family, and motherhood. So this is good news. Every step that the Trump administration is taking here is a step toward restoring protection for life. And this is a step forward and toward really national repentance, which is something that America so desperately needs. We need national repentance. Now, it's not perfect. Because I guarantee they're going to still come out with something. I would love to see these pills banned altogether. Mifepristone, misoprostol, where these pills aren't taken at all. And I would like to see that happen. But they're going to be moving into a direction that is somewhat, the direction that we want, which would be, hey, let's make sure that the data justifies abortion in the mail and telehealth visits, and that this stuff is actually safe for mothers. So if the Democrats' arguments weren't so freaking laughable, they'd be tragic. They call Trump FDA's review here of the safety rules surrounding the abortion pill dangerous. Okay. I don't know about you, but I think that it's pretty dangerous that you've got 11% chance of winding up in the hospital hemorrhaging from a pill that was supposed to be safe. I don't know about you, but I think that's a little more dangerous than reviewing the safety rules. Okay, so Planned Parenthood, they say they're champions of women's health, but really that's kind of like Bud Light saying that they're the champions in common sense marketing, that they are the champions of marketing. Okay, it's just not true. Okay, so the Biden people, they're suddenly, all up in arms. They're saying that they are pro your rights, and that this is a sacred right to get your abortion pill in the mail via an Amazon delivery. Now, these people ignore the Second Amendment. They trample all over the First Amendment. But when it comes to sending death in the mail, suddenly it's a sacred right. Give me a break. This is stupid. They're suddenly constitutionalists, and they're suddenly constitutional originalists. And when it comes to abortion pills, only when it comes to abortion pills. So here's where liberty truly comes in. If a nation cannot protect its children, it cannot protect its citizens, period. The Trump administration is stepping in here with some common sense. We should really be enforcing the existing law, the Comstock Act, and we don't even have to play this game of getting data or anything like that with the leftists. They're doing it out of the, spirit of bipartisanship or whatever, which I'm such an authority. I'd be in there and I'd be like, get rid of them. The Comstock Act says you can't be sending pills in the mail or the abortion paraphernalia. Get rid of it. So the Trump administration, they're putting real standards in place, and they are protecting the children, because you can't protect the citizenry if you can't protect the children. We can't continue to pretend that abortion pills, especially abortion pills where they are prescribing them to 12-year-olds in the mail, and they're not actually seeing their patients. They're not actually overseeing their care after post-abortive pill, after they take the pill. We can't keep pretending that this is just another healthcare option. Okay. So what do? We pray for mothers. We pray for the children, for RFK Jr. as he navigates really this pressure cooker that he's in, and we pray for boldness. I really want RFK to be more bold here. We pray, we speak, we don't let Planned Parenthood dominate the narrative. We share the truth in our churches, in our communities, in our families. We share that verse out, Psalm 139. If you're a Christian, you cannot also be for abortion. You just can't be. So we also have to hold our leaders accountable. The Comstock Act is already there, and it's already law. And really, we should be demanding enforcement of that law. So, folks, and this is what is so crazy to me. People say that Donald Trump wants my uterus. Donald Trump is one of the most moderate people when it comes to the issue of abortion. Like, extremely moderate. So moderate where I'm getting frustrated with RFK Jr. and Donald Trump's handling of this. Now, do I understand it? Yes, but I'm pretty damn frustrated because I'd like to see them go harder on it, but they just won't because they're trying to honestly, because they aren't as conservative as you or I are. So, under the Biden administration, the pill thrived. The pill industry thrived under the Trump and RFK administration. I'm hoping that we could restore some sanity, restore some safety, and restore our national conscience. All right, I got to take a quick break, but smash that like button, share this out with your friends, and support the program. If you want to support the program by sending a super chat, I'll take your chats on the other side of this break. Send a super chat. What we're going to do is build out the infrastructure of the show, make sure the website is up and rolling. We're very close to doing that. We're going to be doing that here. Hopefully, we're going to have that launched by the end of Christmas. The website where you guys can go find all of the resources and the articles and, everything I've talked about today. We want to provide you blog posts so that way when you're in line and you're thinking, what did Kat say? I'm going to share that with my friend. You can go to the website. You can find it. We want to be able to provide that to you. Support the program by sending a super chat or by visiting patriotpumpenergy.com. Patriotpumpenergy.com, where you can buy your bottle of premium pre-workout. It is the best pre-workout. I'm telling you, no artificial colors. We're not trying to pump you full of caffeine. A lot of those pre-workouts, 300 milligrams, 250 milligrams of caffeine. That is not what we're doing. We're doing 150. It's a bit, but pair it with black pepper extract, you're going to get that long-lasting focus that you desperately need in order to function, whether you're a working mom, whether you're, putting a workout in. It is a great supplement to help you get through the day, help your focus, be long-lasting. All right, I got to take a quick break, but smash that like button.
Real strength doesn't need applause, and real faith doesn't flex for attention. Jesus said, when you fast, don't walk around looking miserable. Try to look holy. That's not devotion. That's performance. And God doesn't reward actors. Matthew 6, verses 16 through 18. Is Jesus calling men to fast in secret, where only the Father sees? Because fasting isn't about proving your discipline. It's about pursuing God with hunger. So real, you trade food for fire. You don't fast to earn points. You don't fast to make space. You weaken the flesh so the spirit gets louder. You say no to your cravings so you can say yes to something deeper. But here's the catch. It's got to be real. Not for your boys, not for social media, just you and God. In the quiet, in the dark. That's where rewards are born. In silence, in secret, in the furnace of unseen obedience. You want to be strong in public? Train in private. Fast without a stage. Pray without applause. Obey without a crowd. Your Father sees in secret, and He's the only one who reward what matters. Patriot Pump doesn't give you just energy. It keeps you focused. No fluff, no crash, just clean, hard-driving fuel for men who train with purpose and sacrifice. If you're building discipline in the dark, this is your edge. Train hard, stay sharp.
Hey, go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe Tell one friend today to subscribe to Conservative Cat. That would be a huge help. According to the left, there is no legal way to designate Antifa as a terrorist group. They say that you can't designate Antifa as a terrorist group because there's no real organization there. And that couldn't be further from the truth. And I want to provide you the truth right here on the Conservative Cat Show. So the left, they have gone as far as to say that political violence only comes from the right and that it largely comes from the right, which is just simply untrue. Antifa is absolutely an organized terror group who commits most of the political violence in this country, which is why Donald Trump was very clear about calling this an Antifa group. Here's the bottom line, folks. America cannot afford to cannot afford to let this organization continue. We have to shut them down. So Trump's plan to scale this group back, okay, that is not a wrong move. He's right, and today's show is breaking it down. So to scale this back and to really eradicate it would be, I'd imagine, what President Donald Trump wants to do with this organized terror group, and that's exactly what it is. So let's get into it. According to a professor, his name is Professor Michael Lodenthal. He says, quote, data shows that extremists on both the left and right commit violence, though more incidents appear to be from right-leaning attackers. He even went as far as to say that in 2001, for instance, there were more cases of right-wing violence than attacks by Islamists, even though the September 11th attacks by Al-Qaeda killed almost 3,000 people that year. Okay, on the surface there, okay, he said, for instance, in 2020, or in 2001, there were more cases of right-wing violence, including when you factor in the attacks by the Islamists who killed 3,000 people. Like, this is insanity. Very far left guy. And in fact, Lodenthal, this guy, Michael, he was actually arrested alongside Antifa protesters back in January of this year when Trump became president. So that's kind of funny, kind of ironic. I mean, he went as far as to claim that, like, in 2001, there were more cases of right-wing violence than attacks by Islamists. Okay, there were tons of attacks by Islamists, including the September 11th, 2001 attack by Al-Qaeda, and it killed 3,000 people that year. Okay, no, like, you're outrageous, man. So he's obviously biased, and I can have a bias. I have a bias on the show, clearly, but you can still do good work and provide facts and resources and data and have a bias, okay? This guy has a bias, and he's not doing good work. You know, by me saying that there were more attacks from right-wingers than there were by Islamists in 2001. That is an outrageous claim, and it's outright propaganda, and it's not good work. So I don't care if this guy had a bias. You can do good work with a bias. If you don't like President Donald Trump, if you're a leftist, you can still provide the correct facts surrounding political violence. And he didn't. And I think the facts are clear, especially this year. I mean, 2 assassination attempts on Donald Trump's life. They almost killed Brett Kavanaugh. Okay. And then you've got actually, I would go as far as to say Melissa Hortman. We haven't confirmed this, but I would say that he wasn't a right-leaning individual, but rather left-leaning, in that his wife worked for Tim Walz. Okay. They were definitely, he and his wife were very entrenched in Democrat politics. He was appointed by Tim Walz to serve on a board, in fact. So, and he gunned down Melissa Hortman shortly after she sided with the right on a vote surrounding providing illegal immigrants health care. So Antifa They claim that Donald Trump can't name them a domestic terrorist group because they're not an organized group. Okay, you can't name them a terror group if they're not actually organized. Now, I want to be clear here. Antifa recruits nationally and internationally. They recruit people from this nation and from other nations to join this group, and this group is closed to members only. Well, okay, how do you know that? Here's the resource, rosecityantifa.org. Okay, the group is closed to members only. If you're interested in joining, please send us an email with a little bit of information about you and what makes you interested in joining. Well, holy crap. I mean, I guess Antifa literally exposed themselves. I mean, how much more official do you get? You can't get much more official than that. They explicitly say here in this rosecityantifa.org website that it's closed to members only and that you can join by sending a formal email with information about yourself. So if there's a membership, attendance is closed to anyone who's not an official member. And you have to also get verified. So I also wanted to share this with you. Look at this. There's a verification process. So once you sign up, once you email and you tell them a little bit about you, there's a verification process to confirm your identity, to confirm the identity of the member. So this is a country club for jackwagons. Okay, quite literally, it doesn't get much more official than this. Now, according to Antifa International themselves, they say in a lot of ways, Antifa are more organized than ever before. We're seeing cross-border collaboration with projects like Tumblr, the International Anti-Fascist Defense Fund, the International Day of Solidarity with Anti-Fascist Prisoners, etc. So they name all of these projects, Tumblr being one of them. And they say that this reaches across borders. And who said that? Antifa International, that group itself. Okay, so they claim themselves that they're more organized than ever. They're recruiting. They have memberships. So if Donald Trump says that this needs to be a registered a terrorist organization, and then the left comes back and says, well, Donald Trump can't do that. They're not actually an organization. What the hell do you mean? Okay. The left is going to sit there and say, oh, it's not an organization. It doesn't get more like an organization than this. Okay. It includes a membership. If this isn't an organization, then there is no organization out there. Okay. Then the word is meaningless. So, yeah, Donald Trump labeling this a domestic terrorist organization, a terror group, is very accurate. Okay, let's talk about ABC. I'm going to talk about Jimmy Kimmel here. Good morning. Day 2 here. I appreciate you being here. I really like new listeners. Darlene, I'm glad that you're here this morning. Be sure to follow the program. We are talking about Jimmy Kimmel this morning, so glad you could join us. I'm not sure what ABC or its corporate parent Disney was thinking in this whole Jimmy Kimmel thing. So they ticked off the liberals. They ticked off their liberal viewers by suspending the unfunny late night show host propagandist Jimmy Kimmel for spreading misinformation, otherwise known as lying. He outright lied about the murder of TPUSA founder Charlie Kirk. Okay, so the assassin was MAGA, as Kimmel had asserted. He said that as if it was fact that he was MAGA, despite multiple law enforcement agencies and reports saying that he was actually swayed by left-wing ideology and that the bullet casings had left-wing slogans on them. Okay, so that is how Jimmy Kimmel lied. And like I said, this is a broadcaster, not cable. So Fox News and CNN, they're actually cable news. That's much different than broadcast news. Broadcast news, a lot of them hold FCC licensing. They're broadcasters, so they have to be held to a higher standard. So outright lying puts you in a liability situation, and that's probably why they said, Kimmel, we've got to let you go. Two large broadcasters, actually, Sinclair and Nexstar, they were disgusted by the inflammatory rhetoric and urged Disney to take action and to can Jimmy Kimmel or to temporarily suspend him because he's a liability. But just when you thought Disney had actually done the right thing, and they did temporarily suspend him, when you thought that they did the right thing for a change, Disney, they turned around and then they put Kimmel back on the air. Sinclair and Nexstar, they folded, like cheap suits. And they gave the finger really to everybody on both sides of the aisle. Okay. So they really didn't accomplish much at all with this Jimmy Kimmel thing because they pissed off the liberal viewers by temporarily suspending him for the inflammatory rhetoric surrounding, and I will go out to say the outright lies about the Charlie Kirk assassination. They pissed off their liberal viewers, but then they pissed off the right because they didn't even stand by their word and say, yes, we're going to keep the suspension, or they didn't even keep the suspension. So they've pissed off everybody on both sides of the aisle. So I don't know what the hell they were thinking with this. You had the liberals shrieking over the First Amendment, even though this was a corporate decision, obviously, to sideline Kimmel. I think, definitely not a government one. Yes, the FCC chairman came out and said that, hey, we are going to be policing and regulating FCC licenses. You're not going to be able to get out there and say outright lies anymore. And every law enforcement agency came out and said that it was left-wing ideology that inspired this assassin. So it was an outright lie for Kimmel to suggest that he was part of the MAGA gang. Okay. But it wasn't a government decision to let Kimmel go. This was a corporate decision. Really, at the heart of it, I think that it's that he sucks at his job and he doesn't really pull in money, and they cited the Charlie Kirk assassination comment as a reason why they were suspending him. But really, I think it's just that he sucks at his job and that he's very unfunny. And a lot of people don't want to subject themselves to his rants and to his propaganda. And I predicted this. Now, he had scored pretty high in the ratings when he first returned after his suspension. But then people quickly remembered, hey, I really don't like watching this guy. And then they tuned out. Okay, so Jimmy Kimmel is not happy. I can't imagine he'd be a happy man today because his comeback is not looking very big at all. Just 3 days back on air, his ratings have crashed by 70%. Jimmy and the network thought that he'd be a free speech martyr, which is why they brought him back. They thought that the ratings would go through the roof because he's a free speech martyr, but everybody kind of knew that this wasn't a free speech issue. It wasn't the government that was silencing Jimmy Kimmel. It was a corporate decision. So he's not a free speech martyr. Okay. And they thought that people on the left and right would tune in 10 times more to figure out, what's going on with Jimmy Kimmel because of the curiosity and the hype. To be honest with you, it probably was all a stunt to try to get people. And for the first day, they did see a spike in ratings, but then it trickled off very fast. 3 days of him being back on the air, we're already seeing his ratings crash by 70%. Viewers are tuning out in record numbers. Turns out America doesn't want to see his bitter ass, the hypocrisy, and his tired old routine. Oops. Turns out that they don't actually like him. And, Kimmel can't be counted on to tell the truth. And really, that is why people probably don't listen to him, because he's just an outright liar. And definitely what he said about the Charlie Kirk assassination proves that. So on Jimmy Kimmel Live this past week, on Thursday, he averaged 2.3 million total voters. Okay. That is a staggering 64% drop from the 6.5 million who tuned in Tuesday. Okay. So Tuesday, 6.5 million tuned in. Thursday, 2.3 million people tuned in. So, people tuned in a lot on that Tuesday because of the hype and the hype surrounding his return. Now, let's shed a light on who's actually watching the Jimmy Kimmel show. I've got the demographics pulled up here. Adults aged 25 to 54, with Thursday's episode hemorrhaging 73% of viewers from this critical category. Okay, so a lot of the younger viewers on Thursday had tuned out. So this tells me that you've got your boomers, and I say that I respect my elders, I love my elders, but actually my brother, he talked about this. He actually was telling me a little bit about a client or a person he encountered on the job. He had a Kamala Harris poster in his garage, and he was like, I asked him how old he was, and he says, old. He was about 70. Yeah, these are like the hippies that grew up and like, yeah, these are the people who are Jimmy Kimmel's viewers, and they sit in front of the TV all day, and they are fed NBC garbage, ABC garbage, alphabet soup garbage all day long, and they believe everything that comes out of Jimmy Kimmel's mouth. That is who watches Jimmy Kimmel. Okay. It's like Kamala Harris rallies were not really youthful. She tried very hard to, make her rallies youthful by having all of these celebrities come in and endorse her. But really, the people who are the old racists. Like, let's be honest. Like, they probably lived in the 1800s and had slaves. Those are the types of people who support the Democrat Party at this point. So a lot of people ages 25 to 54, they tuned out after a few days of Jimmy being back on the air. So Jimmy Kimmel Live, they actually pulled in 1.7 million viewers among their key demo, the age 25 to 54. That's their key demo. On Tuesday night's return. Okay, like I said, overall it was 6.5 million, but in that key demographic, which is key, because eventually those viewers that actually tune in, like, so only a small fraction of the 6.5 were actually their key demo. The rest of their viewers are going to die off here pretty soon, objectively. Okay, now that plummeted just 48 hours later from 1.7 in that key demographic to 465,000 just 48 hours later. So you're only having 400,000 views, okay? And this is a show I'm sure Jimmy Kimmel was getting paid. Now, Stephen Colbert was getting paid $50 million. I don't have that ton. I'm a small podcaster, okay? And you're probably thinking, oh, that's pretty hypocritical if you'd be talking about this. I'm a small podcaster. I don't get paid unless you guys pay me, okay? So, yeah, the fact that you've got Disney, these mega corporations backing this guy with a large contract that I'm sure is pretty similar to a Stephen Colbert contract to the tune of millions. And he's pulling 400,000. That's terrible. Absolutely terrible. So Jimmy Kimmel Live lost a significant amount of viewers in the younger demographic. So I talked about their key demographic being 25 to 54, but the younger adults, 18 to 49, they had 1.2 in that age range on Tuesday, but then they lost 73% of them, and they only got 334,000 just a few days later. So 300,000 people who are ages 18 to 49 watching. So I want to share this with you. This is kind of funny. At this rate, a spoon has gotten more views than Jimmy Kimmel and has outperformed Jimmy Kimmel. Somebody put this out there on X. I actually saw this on Facebook too. There was a hot dog that got a ton of views. But this is really funny. Somebody put this out there. I had to share it with you. It was hilarious. Okay, this is funny. The spoon, Spoon versus Jimmy Kimmel came on. Now I'm going to make sure that this spoon gets more ratings than his show. So this guy posted this. It's at nearly 800,000 views at this point. So he's actually gotten more views this spoon than Jimmy Kimmel. Oh boy, that is funny stuff. So Kimmel's ratings have been dropping for years. Okay. And he's become more of a DNC spokesperson, and people are just kind of tired of politics, especially late at night like that. I'd imagine people just want a good laugh, right? And he's not providing that. He's just a DNC spokesman rather than a comedian. And I don't believe in government censorship, but that doesn't mean companies are somehow required to hang on to low performing or underperforming has-beens. Okay. And I think that once his contract ends in 2026, I don't think that Disney signs another term with them with numbers like this. And honestly, I think it was all a hype anyway. It wasn't really about, what he said about Charlie Kirk. He said much worse things than that, even on his show, I'm sure. Lies, outright lies. I don't think it was about the Charlie Kirk thing. I think that they had tried to facilitate a PR stunt where they canned him and then they brought it back and they tried to, and it worked for a day, but then they plummeted even worse, the ratings. So I don't think that he actually gets renewal of his contract, which ends in 2026. So I think this was their last ditch effort to try to get eyeballs on Jimmy Kimmel. Disney has stopped thinking for several years. Yeah, several years ago, they had stopped thinking. You're right, Steve. I shouldn't expect much from this company, Disney. Now, I want to bring up Andrew Colvey. So he is the TPUSA spokesman. He was a good friend of Charlie Kirk, a producer. He didn't mince words on X, or share a post that he had said, yes, Jimmy got emotional. So what? He's emotional for himself because he almost torched his entire career. Kimmel is an unrepentant liar who tried to blame Charlie's assassination on part of the country that just spent the last 2 weeks praying and holding vigils. What he's really saying is that he thinks that it's fair game to slander conservatives. He would rather advance his own political and cultural agenda than confront the truth. The truth is that his own side has been fanning the flames of political assassinations for years. The truth is that someone on the left picked up a gun and murdered someone on the right who advocated for peaceful debate. It's critical that liars admit they lied. There can be no restoration without that. Anything short of that is fake and scripted cry line designed to endear him to his fans, not to make right the wrong that he committed. Yeah. So earlier in the show, we opened the show about Alex Williams and how he went after Christians, and he actually said something really nasty about how Christians who love a God that they can't see, but they're very hateful to neighbors whom they see on a daily basis, or see daily. That's what Alex Williams said. And, I'm just calling for him to apologize. I think that was deeply offensive, and being that he's an elected leader who is supposed to represent constituents of all shapes, sizes, colors, creeds, religions, he should make a statement publicly and say, I apologize for my behavior. Jimmy Kimmel just needs to come out and admit that he lied and make right the wrong that he committed. And Christians, largely people who were friends of Charlie Kirk or had a connection to Charlie Kirk, they are Christians. Okay, not all of them, but I would say a good majority of people who like Charlie Kirk were Christian people. He was a minister. He was a preacher, I would say. And what really needs to happen is Jimmy needs to come out and say, yes, I lied. Okay, because what he's really saying here is that it's okay to slander conservatives, and it's okay to advance your political and cultural agenda rather than tell the truth. Okay, that is what is going on here. And the truth here is that there's one side that is flamed and fanned the flames of this political violence and political assassinations for years. Brett Kavanaugh, Donald Trump, Abe Lincoln, JFK. This was always the left or the Democrat. I mean, let's be real. The real guy who killed. Actually, he's got a book out there Stone. He has a book that I've read, and it's so good. Roger Stone. Roger Stone. I think that's his name, right? I don't know. Yeah, that's right. Roger Stone. He was the guy who made this book. It's the guy who killed Kennedy. Go check out that book. He's a Democrat, right? LBJ. And he makes the case that LBJ was the guy who killed Kennedy. And it's a great book. So I think that the left has always been this leftist radical establishment type. They have always been fanning the flames of political assassinations. And the truth is that somebody on the left picked up a gun and shot Charlie. And if Jimmy were to just come out and say that truth, I think that would be fine. And, you know, there's nothing funny, ABC, Disney, Jimmy, there's nothing funny about telling lies about somebody being murdered on the right. Charlie was on the right, who advocated for peaceful debate. There's nothing funny about that. And lying about that, that's not funny. So they really need to come out with a statement and say that he lied. Jimmy needs to come out and say that he lied about that. So I'm going to take a quick break. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. We'll be right back. Welcome to Conservative Cat Clips, where we deal with the truth, not talking points. I'm your host, Kat, and today we're putting a spotlight on something the abortion industry wants to keep you in the dark about: abortion pills. What are they? How do they work? And how are they hurting women? Let's talk about the facts. Over 54% of abortions in America are now done using chemical abortion pills. That number is climbing fast. Why? Because it's easier, it's cheaper, and it's quieter. But here's what they won't tell you. Abortion pills come with a serious risk. The process is two drugs: mifepristone, which actually ends the pregnancy, and misoprostol, which forces the body to expel the baby. Sounds simple, right? It's not. According to the FDA, 4,200 serious adverse events have been reported, including 28 deaths since 2000, the year 2000. And those are just the official numbers. In 2021, there was a peer-reviewed study that found that ER visits after chemical abortions increased by over 500% between 2002 and 2015. And here's the kicker. Many of these cases are coded as miscarriages, and they're coded as miscarriages because women don't, or they can't, tell the hospital what actually happened and that they actually took these pills. That means the real damage, probably much worse. So way more than 4,200 adverse events since 2000. Now brace yourself. The Biden administration made it to where these pills were accessible by the mail, with no person exam, no ultrasound, and no guarantee that the pregnancy had to be an ectopic pregnancy. So, I mean, you could be taking these in your 6 months, 7 months, 8 months along. And it's not, this could be deadly if you take it when it's not an ectopic pregnancy. Women are being told to take these powerful drugs, and there's zero medical supervision. That's not healthcare. It's called negligence. It's medical negligence. And we're seeing heartbreaking stories about all these women who are bleeding alone in dorm rooms, bathrooms, parking lots, or even in their own cars in the parking lot. Clinics like Planned Parenthood calls this empowerment and empowering, but tell me how it's empowering to hand a teenager a handful of pills and say, good luck. The emotional fallout is just as real, by the way. There's a physical risk, but there's an emotional risk as well. Women reported feeling abandoned, traumatized, and even haunted by what they've done, especially when they see the tiny, tiny body of their baby passing, and passing that. It's traumatizing, and nobody tells them that they're going to see the tiny baby in the pamphlet. So here's the truth, the plain and simple truth. Abortion pills are not safe. They're not kind, and they're not empowering. They actually hurt women, and they silence their pain by taking these chemical abortion pills, and they protect an industry by keeping the abortion in the dark. And it doesn't do anything to protect the individual at all. I'm Kat, and this has been Conservative Clips, Cat Clips, reminding you that real healthcare, it doesn't kill people, and real healthcare means empowering women and supporting women, not selling them lies in a bottle. Stay alert, stay bold, and always choose light. This has been Conservative Cat Clips. Hey, go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe to the channel while you're here. That is a big help to me if you could just subscribe, and visit patriotpumpenergy.com to support the channel by buying your bottle of pre-workout today. It's premium pre-workout, no artificial colors, no sugar. We're not trying to pump you full of 50 grams of sugar in one little serving. Okay, we're just trying to provide you long-lasting focus. We pair the caffeine with a black pepper extract. It's really good for you. There's some creatine, some good supplements in there, some vitamins. Check it out, patriotpumpenergy.com. Use the promo code ConservativeCat at checkout. Okay, so I want to talk about J.K. Rowling. So she savagely responded to Emma Watson here. Emma Watson, she is that woke actress, and she wants to be friends again with J.K. Rowling. So I'm going to provide you guys some background. The left is starting to learn slowly but surely that they are on the wrong side of history, especially when it comes to this trans issue, okay? They have been siding with trans activists over women, and some are out there now trying to make up for it. You will see this cultural shift is going to be like a pendulum swinging into the other direction. I think that we're going to see it much slower than a swing. But Emma Watson, she wants to be friends with J.K. Rowling again. Yes, this is the same J.K. Rowling who is the head transphobe in charge. People have called her, the head transphobe or transphobic. And she is responsible for us knowing who Emma Watson even is. I don't know if you guys are into Harry Potter. I'm really not. I've watched the movies. I didn't really read the books. My mom did not let us watch that dark arts or the magic, and she's a Christian mom, your basic Christian mom. She didn't allow it in the home, okay? But I watched it anyway because I'm a kid, and all my friends were watching it, so I've watched the movies. It's a good series, but J.K. Rowling is responsible for us even knowing who Emma Watson is. She created the character Hermione, okay, in the book series Harry Potter, okay? So the author here, J.K. Rowling, she responded to an interview in a very candid manner, okay, in a very honest manner. And she didn't play nice with Emma Watson. So take a listen to this recent interview. This is the woke actress, Emma Watson, wanting to be friends with J.K. Rowling now.
Could ever cancel her out or cancel that out for anything. It has to remain true. It is true. And this is where this holding of these, I just don't know what else to do other than hold these two seemingly incompatible things together at the same time and just hope maybe they will one day resolve or co-join themselves, and maybe accept that they never will, but that they can both still be true. And I can love her. I can know she loved me. I can be grateful to her. I can know the things that she said are true. And that can be this whole other thing. And my job feels like to just hold all of it. But the bigger thing is just what she's done will never be taken away from me. I could ever cancel her out or cancel that out for anything. It has to remain true. It is true. And this is where this holding of these.
Okay. All right. That's Emma Watson. The woke actress. Okay. So it always fascinates me. J.K. Rowling, you know what I mean? The left turned on J.K. Rowling, and it's really fascinating to me. And it's really fascinating to me that even Charlie Kirk was the one who died and was martyred, and Donald Trump is Orange Man bad, and Hitler, because these people are very moderate. I would hate for these people to figure out what my views are. Okay, so MAGA, she's not even MAGA, J.K. Rowling. She's not conservative. She is very, very moderate. Honestly, I think that she probably only is anti the trans issue, okay, and probably more so anti-boys being in girls' locker rooms, okay. So there was a time, actually, when leftists were identifying, and this was fascinating. I think this was in 2016. They were identifying as Hogwarts sex, and they were describing themselves that they were like the resistance of Donald Trump, and they were describing themselves using Hogwarts sex in like Team Gryffindor or whatever. So like the people who read her books are very left. She's very left. I would say $10. I bet $10 that she thinks Trump is a fascist and is some sort of authoritarian. J.K. Rowling, I don't know. I can't speak to her beliefs on Donald Trump. She hasn't really talked about it. She's just been very outspoken on the trans issue. But I'm willing to bet $10, yeah, that she thinks Trump is a fascist or doesn't like Donald Trump in any kind of way. She disagrees with one issue, disagrees with the left on one issue, which is the trans issue, and they've basically treated her like Voldemort because she's on the 80 side of this 80-20 issue. Okay, so to recap, in 2019, there was a British woman who was wrongfully fired for this pronoun infraction. Okay, she didn't put pronouns in her email signature or whatever. And J.K. Rowling actually came out in defense of her in 2019. And of course, the usual suspects, the leftists on their keyboard warriors, they demanded J.K. Rowling bend the knee and apologize for standing up for the woman who refused to put the pronouns in her bio. So J.K. Rowling refused to bend the knee. And that is when Emma Watson and Harry Potter actor Daniel Radcliffe, they actually turned on her. And, you know, over the past 6 years, since 2019, the left has been doing what the left does. They've been threatening this woman. J.K. Rowling, this hater of hers, actually demanded that she perform a sex act on him. I mean, there are some extreme things that people have said about J.K. Rowling. And it's so fascinating to me because this woman is not somebody who's MAGA or conservative by any means. Okay. She created a book series that attracted crazy leftists. So trans author threatened to slit J.K. Rowling's throat, you know, from 2019 to 2025. I'm just kind of going over these instances of where J.K. Rowling's life has been threatened. Her haters have demanded she perform like sex acts on them. I mean, in a very bizarre, like angry rant, this hater like said, you know, I want you to perform a sex act on me. Crazy. So she threatened really to slit J.K. Rowling's throat, this trans author. And then J.K. Rowling, she was threatened with a pipe bomb, actually, by a trans activist. So this woman has been through it. I bring up those examples. I'm not going to get into the details of each one, but she's been threatened. She's been through the ringer. Okay, so since then, the left is starting to realize that they've gone too far with this trans issue. Okay, and I'm thinking they're starting to realize that when it comes to allowing boys in locker rooms, girls' locker rooms, allowing men in female prisons, allowing men in rape crisis centers. A lot of progressives and leftists like Emma Watson are waking up to the fact that they were wrong and that they should be on the 80 side of this 80-20 issue. So that's what we're starting to see here with Emma Watson and this olive branch, essentially, that she gave J.K. Rowling. Well, guess what J.K. Rowling did? She set that olive branch on fire, and she pointed out how Emma Watson and her co-stars, so Daniel Radcliffe, made it clear over the last few years that they think their former professional association gives them a right to attack Rowling for clout. Okay, so they had a professional association with each other, J.K. Rowling and Emma Watson and Daniel Radcliffe, and they really weaponized that former professional association to gain all kinds of clout by attacking her for her positions on trans issues. Okay, so let's share this tweet with you, actually. Here we go. I mean, this is funny. I'm not going to read the whole thing because this is pretty long. But she took to Twitter and she responded to that interview with Emma Watson. Boy. This part of the tweet is key. Okay, I'm going to read some of it. Like other people who've never experienced adult life, uncushioned by wealth and fame, Emma has so little experience of real life. She's ignorant of how ignorant she is. She'll never need a homeless shelter. She'll never need to be placed on a mixed sex public hospital ward. I'd be astounded if she's been in a high school changing room since childhood, okay, or a changing room. Her public bathroom is single occupancy and comes with a security man standing guard outside her door. She is stripped, or she had to strip off a newly mixed sex changing room at a council run swimming pool. Strip off in a newly mixed sex changing room at a council run swimming pool. Okay, so I'm just reading this. Is she ever likely to need a state-run rape crisis center that refuses to guarantee an all-woman service? To find herself sharing a prison cell with a male rapist who identified into the women's prison. Okay, so the point here with this tweet is she's saying that Emma Watson is never going to have any kind of hardship or because she has this cushion and wealth and this fame that was really bestowed to her through J.K. Rowling. Emma Watson wouldn't be anything without J.K. Rowling. And what she's saying here in this tweet is that, hey, you're never going to have to deal with the issues that I take or that I have a problem with. Because of your wealth, you're going to have a single occupancy restroom, okay? You're never going to have to change in front of a boy in a high school locker room, okay? So I'm going to play this. This is a clip. Here we go. Let me...
signs too that
attached. So J.K. Rowling attached. This is not J.K. Rowling. But she attached this clip to the tweet. Here we go.
Well, I'd like to think so. And I think there are some other positive signs too that things are shifting. When you see the media starting to say trans women are men, then I think we really are winning. But Emma Watson was careful, wasn't she, not to go too far. I think what she's going to find now is you can't sit on the fence. She was a real cheerleader for Mermaids, the charity, and for transitioning children and for people knowing who they are.
There's also kind of there's that clip of her at the BAFTAs, and it was just kind of like a really snidey, there's that bit where she says, I'm here for all the witch, like, but one. Yeah, it was just nasty.
Yeah.
Right when J.K. Rowling was getting a lot of rape threats, death threats.
So whether she is trying to row back from that full-hearted support for transitioning children, or whether she's just trying to get back in with J.K. Rowling in the hope of work, who knows? Richard Dawkins is an interesting case because, I'm sure when he wrote The God Delusion, he thought that was quite out there. It turns out that saying men can't become women is even more out there. And who would have thought that? But he is someone whose career is so established that he's not at any risk. The real win is when ordinary people can say those things. And I don't think we're quite there yet.
Yeah. So she's finally, Emma Watson is finally coming around to the 80 side of this 80-20 issue. So I'm sure that J.K. Rowling has probably let a lot of this stuff go, and she kind of set the olive branch on fire here. And, there's forgiveness. It's a personal decision. But I don't know, when you factor in the betrayal, the fact that we only know who Emma Watson is because of J.K. Rowling, when you factor in the amount of security that she's probably had to amp because of the threats that she's had, I could see where it's really hard to forgive Emma Watson for this betrayal. And Democrats so badly, they just want you to bend the knee and just take it and not say anything. And really what, Emma Watson could have done, she should have said, hey, we agree to disagree. And she could have easily just said that. She didn't have to go on this full betrayal with Daniel Radcliffe and completely, blast her for her position on the trans issue. She could have just said, agree to disagree. And the left can't do that. They want you to succumb to their ideology and to their beliefs. And if you don't do it, then they label you as a transphobe. So, I don't know. Maybe she really wants to be friends again, Emma Watson. And maybe someday J.K. Rowling will forgive her. It doesn't really look like she's going to forgive her because this tweet was blistering. All right. That's going to do it for me. Bye-bye. Love you so much. We'll do it again tomorrow morning, bright and early, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. I'll talk to you again tomorrow.